think Christian will
Here's
fill
Christian.
out the ranks.
Okay.
Okay.
Here.
We have a regular meeting of the Norwich Planning Commission. We have a quorum, so we'll open the meeting. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda for discussion.
All right.
Second that.
Bob, second. Okay, any discussion on the agenda as presented? Jeff?
Yeah, so my primary question, we get short-term rentals on the agenda with some information forthcoming. And so my primary question is, what's the rush? And I'd like to spend a whole bunch of time understanding what the implications are and maybe kick this to a future agenda item.
So I'm sorry, what was the first question you said? What's the?
Yeah. Sorry. Is the sound quality not great from the room?
No, it's okay. That was just probably
Okay.
my intention. Okay, I turned it up on my end too. Sorry, Jeff. So are you, but we're leaving this agenda item in place? You're just making a statement beforehand?
Yeah, so my question is, what's the rush? I think this item needs a whole bunch of thought and consideration. And following consideration should be kicked to a future agenda item.
Okay, I think that that is a perfectly legitimate part. I think unless I'm hearing otherwise, we leave it on the agenda and we talk to those points when we hit that agenda item. Okay. Any other comments on the agenda? All right. All those in favor of the agenda as presented? All right. That's unanimous. If Vince is with us, and yes.
I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Vince. Okay. Public comment. Do we have public comment for anything not on the agenda? Do you have anybody hiding in the room there I can't see?
No one else in the room. We don't have anyone in the room, no.
Okay.
I do note Sarah, Lamar Sterling, Chris, and Sarah.
Okay.
Hi, no comments. We just
All
were
right.
able to join the meeting, that's all.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's move to the next item, correspondence. The one thing that's correspondence that isn't really to an agenda item is the letter from Jen and Dan Goulet relative to the importance of deer yards. That we forwarded to the solar siting subcommittee, but I asked to have it put in this packet as well, just so since they wrote it to the Planning Commission, I think it's important for us to accept that correspondence before sending it to the appropriate subcommittee. With no objections, I would just accept that into correspondence and move on. I have a couple things on the chair report that don't need decisions, but just to bring you up to date and ask for your input. One is it's time for the annual, or it's time to write up the annual report for the Planning Commission that will then be in the March town report. There's a draft of the one-pager that I put together in the packet. Rather than try the somewhat excruciating activity of group editing here. If there are any big topics or missing thoughts or something that is definitely appropriate for the whole group, please let's talk about it for a second. But otherwise, I'd say if there are relatively small comments, then send them to me and I'll compile them and send it back out to the whole group as the more final version. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm glad to send you some comments, John, to basically capture, the regulatory reforms that we've accomplished this year, and and maybe a bit more. So I'll reach out offline.
Okay. So maybe if I could ask for comments within the next week or so, they're gonna start bugging me for getting it in, although the deadline for the town report is, I call it the end of the calendar year, but let's give ourselves some time to roll this together. So that's one thing. The other is on the enhanced energy plan. We talked about it last meeting. We had a solar siting subcommittee meeting in between. As we talked about last meeting, we took the comprehensive view of the enhanced energy plan requirements, the overall what needs to be included, and then we parsed it out really between three groups: the Planning Commission as a whole, the Solar Siting Subcommittee, and the proposed working group that would be very task focused to a chunk of the enhanced energy plan. I wrote up the next 2 pages in the packet are a summary of that. They really are like draft minutes, for supplemental minutes from last meeting's conversation. Here are the sections of the plan, and here are the ones that we think the solar siting subcommittee should do, and here is what we were proposing for the working group. And we had asked me to reach out to the Energy Committee and the Conservation Commission, which I have done. And I've gotten feedback from both that they are very interested in participating, but they have not had a meeting or a meeting with a quorum since that invitation. And so they haven't come up with an official representative yet. And also, since Mary's not here and we don't have those representatives chosen, then we left that off tonight's agenda, and we'll take that up in the December Planning Commission meeting. So that's where that stands on the enhanced energy plan. Any comments on that? Okay. So with that, we can jump into the meat of the evening. And so on the TRORC maps, we had some conversation last time, really about what was useful to me was to see the overlap of municipal planning grant relating to the village, some of the conversations about what was the definition of the village, specific comments last meeting about shouldn't the village area be contiguous out Route 5 South, and there was one missing piece to do that. So that was last meeting's conversation, and since then we've had specific comments on the maps from the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. And so that's kind of the introduction here. Maybe, Stephen, do you have a specific map? You had map review specifically on the agenda. Is that just a specific thing that makes it contiguous and answers that question?
Yeah, I've mapped the Two Rivers data onto our sort of local data set. So we can look at that. I've also included in that a couple of the two proposed areas that we'd like to expand the village area into. I'm just pulling up the Two Rivers map here, and then I can share my screen.
Yeah, so maybe while you're doing that, I'd say let's get everything on the table.
Yeah.
So maybe Jeff Lubell and Jeff Goodrich as Affordable Housing Subcommittee members, if you want to paraphrase your comments that are in the packet, we can get those on the table as well. Jeff Lubell?
Yeah, I can share what's in the packet. I mean, just briefly, and Jeff Goodrich was not at the last meeting, so can't speak for Mr. Goodrich, but in general, I mean, I think the maps look a lot better than they originally did. I think we should acknowledge that they made some changes in response to our feedback, give them a little pat in the back. The really two suggestions that we had were to go a bit further north in the village area to include the transfer station parcel, since the town recently proposed doing a planning grant to investigate the suitability of housing on the kind of northwestern portion of that parcel. And that would be, if that were to move forward, that would be a natural sort of northern terminus of the village. It would just make sense, and that would give that area priority for funding. One of the main reasons we didn't get funding last time was that was not an area that was part of the state's designated places program. So like, sorry, you don't have bus, you're not a village center or village, a neighborhood designated area, so you don't get priority. So that's one reason to do it, but it just kind of would be a natural northern terminus. And the other was just looking at Hawk Pine, like it's right adjacent to the area that's considered the village area. It's kind of weird that it's excluded. So we would, recommend including it. It's just kind of, it's walkable to downtown. So those were our two proposals. I know you guys have some other things that you were thinking about, but other than that, I think the map in general is looking pretty good given the statutory constraints that they're under.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Jeff. I think they are, it's pretty good. So you guys can all see my screen.
Yeah.
There's one caveat as we look at this. There are some parcels that are only partially in the village area. This effort is mapped directly to parcels. So you can see here down by Hobson Lane, south of Elm Street. Not all of this parcel is actually included in their map. So there is still a gap here, sort of south of Bloody Brook, which doesn't show on my map. But I think we had sort of discussed adding, getting some kind of consensus, if we're going to add or request to add some areas, and then writing a letter. And I think with the addition of Hawk Pine and the area around the transfer station.
Yeah, can you either zoom out or put that one up again is easier for me. And then can we talk one big picture and then the two proposed areas maybe separately for discussion. The big picture we're talking about in terms of the named land uses that we're discussing making contiguous. That's village area, and the blue is, do they call out the blue that's on yours there is blue? Is that a transition area or is that a growth area?
That's it's transition area.
Okay. So we're talking about what the Planning Commission wants to recommend to Two Rivers for changes to the boundaries. And we're not really are we changing anything about the transition area, or are we just adding to the village area?
No, but I do have some thoughts about the transition area, which we can discuss when it comes up. But
okay. But those are the two categories that are at play. And
Yeah.
it's in this area. For the sake of bounding the conversation, is it acceptable at this point? We are not bringing up or proposing hamlets or village areas anywhere else in town. Is that an accurate statement right now?
That's correct. There is an additional village area, sort of at the border between Thetford and Norwich along, I think it's Admiral Street. Like the old Union Village.
Yeah. So that exists in their map, and we're
Yeah.
not proposing to change that.
Yeah, it's actually a village center. They call it a village center up there as a continuation of Thetford's village center.
Okay. All right, so that kind of bounds what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Can we look, I had a question just to look at the two proposed additions. So we have three proposed additions to talk about. One is the gap between downtown and Route 5 South, and then one is Hawk Pine, and one is towards the Dell. Going north on Turnpike, my question to,
Hey, Jan, before we
I'm
go
sorry,
on,
Jeff, yep.
before we go on, can we talk about the general here? So can we entertain questions about the transition zone in the village area before we go on?
It's fine with me, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I follow the RPC's notion of, village area. And to the extent the green represents the village area, then the blue should represent the village area. I understand transition zone, but if we're talking about utilities, infrastructure, water, sewer, roadways, yada, yada, I would say to the RPC, the blue area should be presented as green. And then to the extent that what Steve said along Hops Road, among other things, we're not gonna do spot zoning to just blanket the area, even though it's not developable necessarily. But what are the areas that are accessible to utilities? So bracket everything, I know there's conservation land, et cetera, but bracket that whole area, all the blue, green, and the white in the middle as a village area. That's my suggestion. And by the way, the planning commission reviewed this in significant detail in the 90s. So these areas have not changed in 30 plus years.
Is that so? I'm just looking up in my notes the definition difference between transition area and village area. What Stephen, what would you say are how would you read the distinction between the two, and is there any reason to
I think there would be some characteristic of use, but they all derive from statute, and I don't know what specific statute the transition area references off the top of my head, but I think the sort of the land characteristics would be a little lower density and more mixed use.
Hey, Jan, one more thing.
Yep, go ahead.
So when we look at Route 5 South, it shows the land to the west, and we've talked for a long time as the PC has done previously, show all the land in Dresden and other properties on the east in the same context. So that whole white area, if you will, to the right, I know it's Montshire, I know it's school district, but
Yeah.
The white area to the right is pinched by the highway, right? Is that?
Yeah, this area here, this is what you're talking about,
it
right?
is, and Montshire's down there.
Yeah, they might have sort of identified that as, my computer is so slow.
No, I get it. It's highly developable based on siting, but it's mostly conservation.
Yeah, and that's what they've identified it as. And I also, to your point, Jeff, I mean, that's that's certainly a zoning district that we would have the authority to create locally.
Well,
You know, to include all of this area
no, I agree.
in the village, but if
throw
you
the
were
school-
to take that to Two Rivers, I don't think it would fly.
Throw the school in there, though. The school across from McKenna Road. I mean, there's land on the Dartmouth property and the school property that should be thrown in, to the right of the interstate, to the east of the interstate.
If you would like to see the statutory criteria for village areas versus transition areas, I have them on my screen. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Do I need to stop sharing or can you share over me?
I would need to stop, you need to stop sharing.
He may need to be a co-host too or something.
No, I can go ahead.
Yeah.
So can you see my screen?
In a minute, you've started screen sharing.
Yeah.
All right, so a village area is here. These include areas, the traditional settlement area or a proposed new settlement area, typically composed of a cohesive mix of residential, civic, religious, commercial, and mixed-use buildings arranged along a main street and intersecting streets that are within walking distance for residents who live within and surrounding the core. So that is like the basic, it includes, but is larger than the traditional village center that you have to have, this is a little confusing here, but it says you have to have either municipal water or wastewater. And then it says if no public wastewater is available, the area must have soils that are adequate for wastewater disposal. So right now, it looks like they are now interpreting that to mean you can have any of the three, even though it's not entirely clear. And it says the area has some opportunity for infill development or new development where the village can grow and be flood resistant. Transition areas include areas of existing or planned commercial, office, mixed-use development or residential areas, either adjacent to a planned growth or village area or a new standalone transition or infill area, and served by or planned for public water, wastewater, or both. So the intent of this land category is to transform these areas into higher density mixed-use settlements or residential neighborhoods through infill and redevelopment. So I think the argument, my guess is what they're making is there's not a lot of development there right now, but it's kind of near the village area. And it's the kind of place that you would want to transition potentially to mixed use development. And that's why they're calling it a transition area. I'm just guessing as to what.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, Jan.
Yep.
So just south of the border, it's an intensely developed area. So the notion that it's not developed is hogwash. So Route 5 South is an intensely developed area and it has all the infrastructure we need. Makes all the sense in the world, and I'd like to extend that boundary across the interstate to include the daycare, which is on public water, and the Dartmouth parcel, which probably has access to public water.
Dude, I mean, I think hearing those definitions of, you know, transition infill areas, I think Two Rivers has nailed it on the head for Route 5 South and the Lewiston neighborhood, just because it has demonstrated potential, but not much development itself.
Route 5 South, if you look at
In the town of Norwich.
that is a myopic view that doesn't benefit our community, in my opinion. We're looking at 8 units per acre or more along Route 5 South, a highly developed area along Route 5 South.
You know, this is a, you know, a regional designation. We're not,
No, I understand.
you know, we're not bound to it.
No,
We
I
can come up
understand.
with
I
our
just wanna say,
own district.
hey, fellas, folks, guys and gals,
Mhm.
Pierre?
Vince?
Based on that definition, does the area by the transfer station sound almost like a transition area than the village area? Since it has potential for growth and it's not necessarily in the central area, but that also, I see Jeff's point too, that like that also doesn't fit with the transition area in Route 5 South, but that's also like I see where he's coming from, but it also doesn't fit that definition.
Yeah, my other question, I think that's a good question, and my other question relative to towards the transfer station is that one statement they said that said has opportunity for growth and can be flood resistant. And pretty much until you go up the hill by the transfer station, you're right in the Brooks Path there as you go along Turnpike out towards the transfer station. Jeff?
Yeah, so I want to get back to the blue and green areas we were talking about. So if we can settle on that, Jan, if we're settled on that, let's move forward. Otherwise, I'd like to keep talking about the blue and green areas.
Do you want to put that back up, Steve?
Yeah.
So I think, I personally think that it does matter what's happening on the Hartford side of the border. If we don't look at it that way, we'll make foolish decisions, and the housing project that's going in Norwich right behind the church there is a perfect example that if we didn't know they were getting access and services from the Hartford side, that wouldn't happen. So I think that is important. Unless I guess the transition area definition sounds perfectly legitimate for that area. It doesn't, to me, that Route 5 South area doesn't feel the same as the village area centered around Tracy Hall, say.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, what it feels like to walk between Moore Lane and the transfer station. It doesn't feel the same as walking from Tracy Hall to the library or something. Christian?
I guess I just to this point and to the other two, like, so I would be in favor of including the Hobson Road and the Hawk Pine as an extension of the village area, which we've gone back and forth maps. I think it's pink on this map. It's walkable, it feels residential, it feels like you can walk to Tracy Hall or to school. It's whether it's developable beyond its current capacity or not. I think the truth is that is part of the village area. If you walk around, I agree that Route 5 South, if this is the area that we're targeting for growth, for expansion, probably makes the most sense to go with the designation of the transition area. I will continue to say though, having it, and I don't know the semantics of it, but like having it linked to the rest of the village area makes sense to me. Because right now, as it stands, like it's just there's a gap. So whether you get to sidewalks, bus lanes, whatever it is, like we're 600 yards around the corner short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Christian, you're making the argument that Hobson, where's the gap? Is it between
From Elm Street down to Hobson Lane on Route 5? I mean, that's to me that just like Hawk Pine, that feels it's a mile from town, it's walkable, it's fairly residential, it's got 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I mean, whether you can develop beyond its current capacity, I don't know. But I think just like Hawk Pine, I think feels like part of the village area. I walk there frequently and see people from town walking around like it's part of the village area.
And then those are right where your cursor is. Those white 6 or 7 lots on the east side of Hobson Road. Is that what you're talking about, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, probably both. I would do both sides of the road. I mean,
I think probably from a lot point of view, you would do both sides of the road.
I would think so. But it's another, I don't know, 25 houses that are walkable to the post office, to Tracy Hall.
I agree. And I would also argue to include this sort of residential development in the village area as well, excluding it from the transition zone.
What do other people think? Jeff Lubell?
Yeah, one thing I want to, first of all, I'm fine with whatever you want to do on Hobson Road. I think the reason they excluded it is probably because it doesn't have soils that are clearly capable of having the wastewater, and that they viewed that as a criterion, but there's no reason you shouldn't necessarily ask for it, and see what happens. I will say this, that the transition areas are not considered designated places that are eligible for benefits from the state for, wastewater planning grants or, affordable housing grants, right? So if you make Route 5 South a transition area, if you make the transfer station a transition area, they're not going to be eligible for those benefits. It's, I think, a flaw in the state statute. I've actually spoken with our representatives about fixing that because I think it's kind of silly. But that's the reality that we're living in. So that's why it would be better to have as much of the areas be village areas or village centers or designated growth areas. Those are the three that are counted as designated places.
Jeff Goodrich?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Christian's suggesting along Hobson Road, but I run or try, I wouldn't say what I do is run, but I get out a lot, as Bob can attest. There's a ton of traffic, pedestrian traffic on Route 5 South. There's a ton of traffic on River Road. If I had to say, is there more traffic in the village than there is on River Road and Route 5 South? Probably not. So if our metric is the intensely dense properties and residences and commercial uses immediately south of our border on Route 5 South, and what's going on River Road, and by the way, the green area on River Road makes no sense. There's one little property in addition to McKenna Road that fits in the green property. Then we've got some commercial property with L&M in the former Cook property.
Yeah.
It seems arbitrary and capricious. So my point would be, hey, look, let's look at what's actually happening south of the border into the town, including what Christian said along Hobson Road, and take all these white blocks out, the parcels out. Whether they're developable or not is not the point. Hobson Road has access to municipal water. It also has access to municipal sewer to the extent something happens up Route 5 South.
Yeah.
Those parcels are the closest, regardless of other development considerations, to infrastructure that we have in the town.
Mm.
Stephen, can you go show us River Road a little bit more, that
Yeah.
end, Church Street down to, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that first the question is kind of what are the bounds where the things that are white should be either green or blue, and we can so that's question one, and then whether it's green or blue is question two. I would agree that, I mean, we talked last meeting about contiguous matters. What does it feel like? It says in the definitions walkable, so that gives you another feel. But if those, it's pretty much anything, what's shown is blue up there, but then, smack dab where Jeff lives,
Well, John, Willing Hands was rezoned as our special VR consideration. And it's the pipeline into the town for municipal water. So why isn't Willing Hands green?
Yeah, I would say it's green to the highway. So, and then that's the Milt Fry Nature Area is the big white.
This here, yeah.
Yeah, it's all ledge, so
Yeah.
not a.
Yeah. And I think
That, I mean, just from the point, it should make sense. You should be able to look at it and go, oh yeah, I mean, we're talking compact development and contiguous development areas. It
Yeah.
should make sense. And yes, if it's not going to be developed because, I know like along the road there, the brook there, it's protected, or the Milt Fry area is protected, or it's all bedrock somewhere, it still can look like it's in that area, and then it won't be developed because there are constraints. So if take the most inclusive proposal, let's put it on the table and see how people feel about it. And that would, to my mind, that's taking what shows blue here at the farthest north by Melview Ridge, leave that as a northern boundary, right where your cursor was a minute ago, between Church and the highway, that goes green. And essentially everything to the left of that on this drawing that's white goes green, green or blue, but is in the new, is part of that area.
If you look, Stephen, at the Two Rivers one, it does a better job of being, in that area at least, being more inclusive.
Yeah, I might have, that might be my mistake.
Like
let
Two
me-
Rivers has right where Jeff and I all the way out to the intersection of Church and Route 5 and River Road, like basically all the way out. Includes everything except for the conservation land, I assume.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I see that. So they've included the VR2 area as a infill area.
Yeah.
My bad, I missed that.
So then if we take that as a
Yeah.
proposal, or they've already proposed it and we're
Yeah,
catching up, and then we go over on the Hobson Road. So then it's Hobson Road, it's the piece to the left of the brook there, I know is conserved property, but it still should be flagged, and then to the right, like there's a path at the end of the condos there that goes down to the brook. So I would say that whole
this whole stretch along Hobson.
stretch, both sides of Hobson, and then to the right of that, basically it's 2 or 3 properties that are along Route 5 that fill in the hole in the donut.
Yeah, I would add the daycare and the college parcel.
The college parcel is behind the daycare there around.
Yeah, south of the daycare, but the daycare's a key parcel.
Boy,
Yeah.
where's that?
It's the number, sorry, Steve, is it 16?
Well, basically, Stephen, everything that your current screen that's in that like unshaded color would.
Yeah,
Well, it includes the one shot.
Would
Yeah.
go.
Go left a little, that's a daycare parcel.
okay.
Right there.
Okay, got it. So all of this unshaded, we want to include in the village area. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's the proposal for discussion.
Okay, the proposal for discussion.
And then, so that plus Hawk Pine plus, how do people feel all the way to the, or do you
I'm
want,
not ready to talk about Hawk Pine or the transfer station.
you want to stick with this for a minute?
Yeah, I'd like to resolve the core, the village.
Yeah. Okay, so so we have a proposal at least for inclusion in one of the 2 definitions of village area or transition area, and add what we've been talking about. Do people understand the proposal? Okay.
Can you clarify, Jan, are you proposing, as Jeff is, to turn all the transition areas into village areas?
Not yet. That's not what I'm saying. The proposal right now is to fill in the donut with one of the 2, village area or transition area, and once we get past that agreement, we'll decide which is which. So are people in agreement on that first step?
So, yeah.
Okay.
We may want to propose, rather than sort of flood filling this whole thing, drawing sort of a buffer area where, to sort of connect Elm Street to this transition area. Because it looks like all of the development is essentially on Hobson as opposed to, or do we also want to include Hickory Ridge?
Just Hobson.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got to draw lines. It's, you know, it feels like, what does it feel like? What's walkable? What's currently
Yeah.
being done there? You know, it's all of that kind of gestalt piece of, it should feel right in that sense, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what do you mean by a buffer, Stephen? I don't quite get
As
it.
opposed to like highlighting, you know, the full extent of all of these parcels and including that in the village area, rather just sort of draw a, you know, some kind of polygon that includes the development on Hobson and
So just
excludes
not be
in area.
parcel, not be parcel specific, you're saying, not, you're not
Yeah,
go to,
not parcel, exactly.
I mean,
I
that
mean,
would,
there's,
that would be the only place it doesn't use parcel boundaries, right?
no, not true. There, you know, you can see here,
No, I agree.
sort of south of Elm Street, where my
Mhm.
cursor is.
Yeah,
That parcel is cut in half.
Yeah,
Nice.
no, Steve, the issue is if we're gonna do the right side of Hobson, we gotta do the left side.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean we have to show the whole parcel in the zone,
yeah,
some reasonable distance from Hobson.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think even look at the topography and get a sense of if you cut that thing, not even, you know,
Yeah.
it looks like a line at the toe of the slope there almost would give you a sensible delineation on that left side of Hobson.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, this contour here would probably be good for the east side. And, you know, I think the same with sort of the Montshire parcel. I mean, we have this delineated property where you say the preschool is. Do we
Yeah.
want to include that? I mean,
I would throw the whole area in, and it's up to the Montshire what they do with the property. It's highly developable property,
Mhm.
highly.
Yeah,
developable.
I think the high level point here is we're not we're not proposing development.
That's
We're
right.
being specific about what's going where. We're being asked by the state and by the regional commission and by the needs of the community to designate areas that at a future time might be talked about for specific development or specific incentives or further study and so forth. So this is not, you know, starting to dig ground and pour concrete anywhere. This is just putting down, answering the question, where might it make sense? Jeff?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, so if I think about this, we got 4 core towns, Lebanon, Hartford, Norwich, Hanover. Why are we excluding any land in the core? This is the core of the core of the core. It doesn't matter whether it's the Montshire Museum, which may never be developed. Doesn't matter whether it's Dresden, which never may be developed. It's the core of the core of the core.
yeah, I think that's a question you have to bring to your dear friend Peter Gregory.
Well,
I don't-
I don't understand the question. I mean, I agree with Jeff in the
Yeah.
sense that
I
That-
would also say agree. I totally agree.
I
Like,
love it. Yeah,
I'm seeing nods and so forth. I mean, I think for the sake of answering the question, if Norwich is supposed to point, you know, it's with very specific instructions, 60% or 55% of the new development of this housing target of 270 is supposed to happen in village areas, you know, where is that and how do you find enough room for that? We're answering the question in a way that makes sense, and that includes pretty much this whole area as at least a starting point of the canvas to work with.
True, but it's sort of, you know, this map is truly out of our jurisdiction. This is the Regional Planning Commission's map.
Well, I agree with that, but I don't care. Let's just.
I mean, we could propose.
Yeah, I just want to, planning committee, let's,
So, yeah,
Hey,
I
if
mean, we're gonna send them a note and say, here's what we talked about and here's where we were going with it. I mean, what do you think, Stephen, that for some reason the regional commission is gonna say, no, we disagree with you, we don't want that designation?
Well, I don't know for sure, but yeah, I think we'll get some pushback, but ultimately that doesn't really matter, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if they push back.
hey, Jan,
Yeah.
you know, I love the RPC, but my pushback would be, you want 270, get realistic. Cut the crap, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you think that if you
Make a statement,
some of
yeah.
the housing statistics, the housing types, the state need, Hartford's supposed to come up with 800, or, you know, it's, you can't just sort of pull up the drawbridge and nitpick about every parcel, or you're not going to solve the problem.
I agree, by the way, with the idea of pushing for what you think is right and not worrying about what the RPC is going to do. So either they're going to agree or they're not going to agree. I mean,
Yeah.
And
it's out of your control.
it themselves that, you know, our maps don't have to agree with their maps, and our town plan, as it gets redrafted, will address in much more detail than we're doing right now. We're just starting. Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me is the bigger piece, that last part. So like, let's do what we agree on, and if we're gonna do a town plan and we're gonna go through the process, like, I hope we're more inclusive here of this, like the areas that we're talking about as like the core area of the village. So let's hope that they accept it. And if they don't, at least we've agreed on stuff going a couple years in advance of the town plan process.
Mm-hmm.
Here, yep.
Okay.
So my sort of understanding of the timeline here is that they're taking edits into the early part of next year. December, January. So
So
maybe
do you want to update the map? Because I think just, you know, the either side of Hobson question and changing some colors and updating the map, giving
Yeah.
us then we can each look at the definitions of village area and transition area and think about it. And it sounds
Yeah.
like in the December meeting, we could finalize the will of the group and be in time for needing to make a comment to them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, so with that in mind, I still want to talk a little more about the other two areas, but for right now, is that a decent place to be on this right now? I think that the agreement of the group that I'm seeing is inclusive of the areas we've talked about, filling in the
Mhm.
holes in the donut, and putting that as a canvas for meeting our housing and development obligations as we start talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's give a few minutes to the other two spots, get us in a good place to come back with something concrete to go over in December. Hawk Pine, can somebody help me with the logistics of walkability to Hawk Pine? Is there a public trail connection to Cliff Street or Church Street and four-wheel drive and so forth that's really used on a daily basis? Or, you know, how walkable is Hawk Pine to the village?
I thought parents were walking to Marion Cross from Hawk Pine with their kids, but I don't know what the route is. Yeah, I know it's not the long way around, so I don't know what that means.
I would, yeah, I don't.
You
I
can
don't know.
Four-wheel drive does connect, but it's not super well traveled. It's pretty steep. So I think most people are coming down somewhere near Cliff Street or Library wherever they're connecting. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think there's one that wicked driveway just as you're on Hazen, it's like the second house on Hazen away from the library side. That driveway that comes down, somebody said, oh yeah, there's a path that connects to that driveway. Okay, so the answer to my question is there isn't a public, I mean, if you had a bike ped public path that jumped down, to me,
Yeah.
feel quite different.
I just want to point out that, I mean, Hawk Pine's elevation is pretty high. And although children or young people might be able to walk up that hill pretty easily, it's probably as people get older, the older parts of the population aren't going to be able to walk up there, and it's not going to be you can only consider it walkable for part of the population. And I'm not talking about completely crippled people either. I'm talking about just people kind of worn out.
They don't call it Cliff season for.
Yeah,
Or not.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I've had parent care responsibilities amidst the Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting. So Hawk Pine has among the worst site conditions in the town of Norwich. Period. So you know, if the question is, we've got existing lots. You know, what's the point? Why do we designate Hawk Pine? If there was development potential, I'd say fine. But there's no development potential there, frankly. And I'm glad to move on to the transfer station. But Hawk Pine's site conditions are, well, abysmal. Let me say it that way.
So, I mean, I think as a separate conversation, I would certainly, if we were talking bike ped infrastructure, I would love to figure out a way to connect just to get the, you know, the access and the usability. But yes, to the point of development potential, that's a different question. And if there isn't development potential, then the designation is less important.
Are those are like quarter acre lots up there?
It was an old like a patent forestry thing. It happened before zoning or state regs occurred.
Yeah.
It's among the worst land in the Upper Valley, frankly, with respect to ledge and soils.
Yeah.
I think the reason, you know, I wasn't the one specifically who put this forward, but I think the concept is that it's a residential neighborhood. It's adjacent to all these other places. It's, you know, people feel a part of the village. It seems a little odd just to exclude them. I don't know anything about the development potential, so that's.
I think that's a great point, but there's no potential for development there, and therefore there's no benefit in changing whatever it is, in my mind.
Yeah,
It could be, but that's true, of course, along Hobson Road as well.
Yeah, that's I would agree. So like, I'm somewhere between I would include it. It's in town. It's dense. Tons of kids. I see kids walking to and from school, the library there. I don't know how they're getting there, public or not. If you're going to do buses or anything, it's perfect. Bike ped. It's all perfect for that. I mean, it's a dense area in town, not very far away. Whether or not it's can be developed further, probably not. But like that was not the same criteria we used for Hobson Road or the Monshire or some of the conservation stuff in closer to town. So like to fill in the donut, I would say whether it's however it got there, I don't know, but it's there and it's dense and it's part of the town center.
All right, I'm gonna flip my vote. I agree with you, Christian and Jeff.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to know what we're designating. If we're designating the most likely places for more development, then we're going to be more discerning and we're going to look at it differently. If we're saying what feels like it's part of the village or, you know, logically might be in the future, that's a different set of criteria. Given that both we, as we dig into it more, but then also just the realities of development and constraints are going to decide exactly what happens where. So take that for a second. On my question then out towards the transfer station was the same. I don't know what the it's 50 feet on either side of that brook, but getting out there, I didn't realize that the current village area already went halfway out there from Moore Lane Bridge. I thought it stopped at Moore Lane. So
More than
it's-
halfway out there. It's pretty much there, right? I mean, it stops a parcel or two shy of it. And, the whole concept would be that you turn the area around the transfer station into more of a circle. You have a neighborhood going up into that's sort of the terminus. And it would give us, again, the ability to access priority funding for, project the town has said, put forward. And it's immediately adjacent to the area that's already part of the village area. So it just seems like, it would be advantageous for us to do it and make sense. And hopefully there's a large enough parcel and adjacent to the brook that you'd have the wastewater capacity to support a small neighborhood there.
Jeff?
Yeah, I have to agree with Jeff Lubell. I mean, I wasn't fully aware of the proximity of the red area to the green, but the soils in the vicinity of the transfer station are pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So can we, for now, in terms of asking Stephen to kind of unify what we've talked about, and get it in a consistent way on the map that works, and then put the land use category definitions that Jeff put up into the packet for next time, and let's.
Yeah, Jan, I just want to push back a little bit with Hawk Pine. So the pink area there over to Willie Hill Road. There are a bunch of white areas. So, there are a bunch of gaps. So, as Steve looks at this, whether it's up Upper Loveland or over to Willie Hill.
Yeah.
Include the white areas, even though they may not be developed.
It should make sense when you look at it.
Both sides of the road.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I agree.
Those, redistricting things. If it looks like a ridiculous shaped object, then, try to avoid that. Ernie?
Yeah, I was going to say, for the listers, that was actually causing us a lot of problems this year while we were trying to do the reappraisal, because it doesn't really make sense. I sort of agree with Jeff in terms of thinking, I just think of it sort of mathematically, get rid of the rough edges and smooth out the shapes so that it's more clear what is possibly in the area.
Okay. All right. So we have a couple other topics here to cover. So I think we're in a good place and made good progress on this one tonight. Can we move on? People satisfied with that for progress? Okay. All right. Let's take on short-term rentals here. And just to recap, we had a conversation, I think that was driven, at least put it on the table in an unavoidable fashion by the McKenna Road neighborhood people that came and commented and made written comments. We obviously have, if you look at what Vermont League of Cities and Towns is doing and so forth, there's a lot of conversation and webinars and discussion around this topic as it relates to the housing topic. So I would say that's what got it on our radar pretty quickly over the last couple of meetings. As of the last meeting, the group was talking about the distinction between owner-occupied short-term rentals and investor or non-owner occupied as an important distinction. So that's where we stand. There were a couple very useful pieces of background with a lot of information from VLCT that we put in the packet. So with that, I would open it up. I mean, I don't think, Jeff, to your initial question, I don't think this is burning the house down in terms of the rush. And if we're talking about an ordinance or a bylaws change, you know, it's not going to happen fast, even if we wanted it to, in terms of public hearings, and the select board's got to approve it and so forth. So let's be deliberate and let's talk it through. But that's how we got here to start with. So with that, I'd open it up. Jeff?
Yeah, so as I work with Hartford, Joanne Ells, the zoning administrator with the state law. The difference between Hartford and Norwich is utilities. And by way of example, I can think of a specific property that is permitted as a house that has, I think, is renting to 7 different nurses or medical folks. The law doesn't allow any prohibition for unrelated people in that context. The threshold criterion relates to, you have a kitchen, you have living quarters, you have a bathroom. There's only one kitchen. Unless we do another kitchen, the state law, given public water and sewer, says we can't regulate how many people live there or who's related or not related. Norwich is not in the same place, nor, in my opinion, is it the same question. And, interacting with Rebecca Holcomb and Allison Clarkson last summer about the skyrocketing prices of land as a result of rentals and Airbnbs and so forth. I don't mind confessing my own personal state. Taxes really matter. I don't have any money. What am I going to do? And I think Ernie and I have talked about, the price of land, the price of living, the tax implications with this town. And so as folks come in and buy up land, and I'm not going to get too far in the weeds, but as folks buy up land and say, okay, we're going to rent to Dartmouth College students. That's not the same necessarily as the notion of, hey, I live here, you can come live here with me for this weekend. I might make a slight distinction there. My main concern is, what are the tax implications? Because it's significant for those who live here, those of us who live here. And until we understand what those implications really are, I'm deeply concerned about making any hasty progress.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really following the tax argument. What we have is a unregulated use in the town. And I think we should take the opportunity to regulate that as we can.
I think it is regulated.
Oh, it's not. We don't have any short-term regulations.
That's my point. It is regulated.
Nor is it.
It's regulated with a free hand, you're saying?
No, it's against the rules.
Oh,
So
okay.
my concern when I look at Woodstock is
your suggestion that we prohibit short-term?
it's already prohibited. So my question, when I look at
You're
Woodstock,
saying enforce what's already there.
yeah, and I don't want to tell our planning and zoning person what to do. We have rules in place that are not being enforced.
I can make a suggestion to you.
That said, the tax
if our
issues in
words
Woodstock.
enforce, Jeff,
That said, the tax issues in Woodstock are enormous, as they are throughout the state. So that, call Allison Clarkson and say, what are your tax concerns? So, I've got this little teeny home and somebody's renting next door and the prices are going up. I want to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. Christian?
Because I live here.
I mean, this is a pet peeve of mine. I'm happy to, I don't know if this is in our purview, but like the town of Norwich, we have, if it's a non-homestead, we have a different tax rate for people who don't declare it as a primary home, whether they rent it, whether it's a vacation home. It's about a third of towns in the state of Vermont that are in similar situations as us, Woodstock being one of them, where we charge second homes a lower tax rate. I don't think that's been our purview. I'm all for that. That is the tool to use to stop what you're talking about here, Jeff, in my opinion. But I don't know if we can do that, but that's the homestead versus non-homestead tax rate. Like there's a tool the town has access to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would, sort of be a townwide vote matter, right? But I think you're right. And, to your point, Jeff, of enforcing a prohibition, there's no way that would stand up in court.
Whether that's true or not, Steve, I'm not advocating for that.
It sounds like you are.
No, I'm concerned about the cost of living in this community, which is skyrocketing.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood. Well, let's take it one piece at a time. Vince?
I just like to say that if we are leaning towards, if Jeff is suggesting that it should stay prohibited, I think spelling it out is a much more useful way to communicate that towards people. Towards if someone is just reading the bylaws and doesn't see anything, they might just assume that they could do it if it's not listed, which seems to be the situation in other things. So, but again, just like what we talked about last time, I think differentiating between the owner occupied versus investor owned is a good direction to go into. So that seemed to be the real turning point, I guess, on the people's opinion on this.
Well, and I think not to paraphrase some of the public comment we got, the ability or the perception that you can buy a house in Norwich and then you do the math on how much you could make putting it on Airbnb, and you don't have to live there, and you do that math, you say, oh, then it's worth this much to buy that property for me. And it increases the price, it is a driver of price increase in real estate in Norwich. That affects everybody. That affects housing for other people. It affects taxes and so forth. So that was clearly put on the table by McKenna Road people. We also had, I might add, at least two people who were running owner-occupied, fairly, casual Airbnb instances that were arguing that was a good use of their spare room and wasn't driving a tax implication or an effect on their neighbors.
Hey, Jan, that's a good argument that you're making. I heard that. I agree with that, which is not the same as BlackRock coming in and others coming in and doing what they're doing. I'm trying to be polite. It's a good argument. Let's explore this, and to the extent there's an owner-occupied setting that works, that could be a good solution.
I mean, I would say that after our last meeting, that was sort of the consensus, that was the bright line, that we prohibit non-owner occupied short-term rentals and regulate through a series of requirements of use the short-term rentals. I think the requirements to operate are fairly well-known, fairly standardized now. It's a pretty concise set of obligations. And then we just say, if you can comply with these requirements in this district, you can do it in any district.
And I think the leverage we have is we don't have municipal utilities.
Yeah,
I agree with what Steve just said.
We don't have a massive seasonal attraction.
Well,
like
I may disagree.
Burlington.
I completely disagree.
Or Stowe.
We have huge, but anyway, the point is, I agree with what you said. Owner occupied.
Yeah.
And
it clearly, if you read the background material about statutes and Dillon's rules and so forth, that the one thing that the state says pretty clearly is you can't do anything that stops long-term rentals. They have their own definition of short-term rentals, and you need to use that definition to have legal clout. It was interesting to see the distinction, the there was some real detail given on the owner occupied side. It hadn't gone to the Vermont Supreme Court, but there were a couple district court things. And what it looked like was, as long as you said it could be owner or operator occupied, somebody was there that was responsible. That was the bare minimum, and that was even on the most negative court finding at a district court. There was one that was absolutely, yeah, you can say the owner has to be on site. So that is important. But the other piece to talk about as we ponder this was the ordinance versus zoning regulation question. And simplistically, when I read those, it seemed like the biggest distinction was if you wanted to talk about where you could do it here but not there. If you wanted like uses parsed out across the town in different areas, that would lean you towards a zoning regulation implementation. If you wanted to do a register, if you wanted to do owner occupied requirements and so forth, then an ordinance looked like the preferred tool. Did I misread that, or did people?
Oh, that's exactly right. If we do have sort of consensus about, or agreement that we do want to regulate these things, it's really just a question of what mechanism we're going to use to do that. And the sort of authorities granted by an ordinance are have a wider and stronger interpretation than by zoning regulations. So I think that's sort of the choice we have to make, is if we pursue this as an ordinance or as an interim bylaw. The case in Chittenden County Superior Court was that decided that municipalities could regulate based on occupancy was around an ordinance. So that might be the best mechanism. I don't think we're at a point of uptake in the town of Norwich that we would need a registry. There's 14, 15, 20. It's not very prevalent relative to other towns.
Well, as with anything to do with planning, you need some imagination. You need to look into the future and nip things in. But Jeff, and then Ernie.
Yeah, I think it's more prevalent. Nonetheless, so Steve made a comment that I want to put forth again, which is, to the extent we think about owner occupied rentals in all zoning districts, that makes sense to me. So to the extent, and it also makes sense to me that this is a zoning issue. The issue for me beyond that is then, I'll go back and forth with Steve on other things about, what's the wastewater capacity, what's the permit, yada, yada. So my gut reaction to owner occupied is it makes some sense, and it makes some sense that it's all zoning districts, and it makes some sense that to the extent we have a mechanism to track, do you have the on-site capacity to do that? I don't know how that could happen. I'd like to put that forward. I don't see the select board necessarily pushing back in terms of the zoning ordinance change, but I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I think the sort of initial idea was to run this as an interim bylaw because it is sort of lower lift for adoption. But I think more that now that I've sort of thought about it a bit more, I think that an ordinance is the best way to do it. Because I think one of the requirements that I've collected, around short-term rentals is sort of pegging occupancy to your wastewater permit. With a +2 to the number of bedrooms that you have. And that's sort of standard across the state. And VLCT recommends that if you're going to limit it to owner occupied or operator occupied properties, and you're going to limit the occupancy of those properties, that's best done through an ordinance. And if, if we're not going to require a site plan review or conditional use review for short-term rentals anywhere, then really the best mechanism is an ordinance.
Okay. Ernie, did you have a comment?
Well, I just wanted to say that, I think you were the one, somebody said that, when it comes to the sort of planning and so on, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see how things can go wrong. And I mean,
Right.
considering that this town is under a lot of pressure with a world-renowned multi-billion-dollar corporation dominating the region, we're going to start seeing if we did not have regulations that control short-term residential, short-term rentals, especially if we don't have regulations having them be at least owner occupied. This town would be a perfect place for a lot of BlackRock types to come in and take over. There's nothing to stop them except a good ordinance preventing that sort of takeover or making it difficult. I mean, I don't know if you can actually completely stop it, but I mean, I think the last meeting we had there was somebody brought up a statistic that there was, it was a very short period of time, like 5 years, we went from some small amount of short-term rentals in the state to something in the 20% rate.
Yeah, that was me. It was in 5 years. This was investor occupied, meaning non-owner occupied, went from 7% to 30% in 6 years.
There's nothing to prevent that in Norwich. And matter of fact, this is a perfect town. This so-called, core town nonsense and all the rest of that. That's all a great attraction for investors.
Yeah.
But also the other thing is it won't be good housing for the people that are here or that, if let's say work here, they'll get pushed out of Norwich and as they already are being. But I mean, there are still things where you don't have to, where you work and you are not going to be a millionaire by working there, such as at the hospital and the schools and a lot of other facilities. None of those people, they'll be traveling an hour to get to work if our Dartmouth has its way and the investors that they love to court.
Yeah. Vince?
I just want to say I like the direction this is going with the ordinance idea, and last week we talked about how to do an interim bylaw. I was wondering what the process was to create an ordinance like this.
Yeah, and my question is if an ordinance is the select board does an ordinance, correct? I mean, how does the planning commission relate to the select board in creating a new ordinance?
In both cases, it would require a public hearing by the select board. And then they could.
Before we get that, I mean, like when we're doing zoning regulations, it's clearly in our statutory, we are supposed to make up the zoning regulations for the select board to then go through the motions and pass. Yeah. But an ordinance to me seems less obviously ours, and I just don't want to take it to the select board and have them say thank you for your thoughts and it's dead.
Yeah, we just did it with the farmers market. So basically what Steve described, owner occupied rentals zoning. Let's embrace it. Let's do it, pitch it to them and do the public hearings and go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could just, propose the language, write the ordinance, bring it to the select board and say, we would like you to hold a public hearing on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that if we were to share the VLCT background and it's a model, they have a model ordinance, we fill in the blanks, and then we show the justification that says an ordinance is the right tool for this, and hand it to them in the same kind of packaged deal that we do with zoning or subdivision regulations, then I would, that they would say, you know, yes, planning commission, this is in your wheelhouse. It just so happens that ordinance is the right tool for it. But it's clearly a land use issue that the planning commission is the one that, you know, leads and has thought about. Ernie?
I just, you know, in sort of real politic kind of things, I would I think the ordinance is the right way to go, no matter what. But I also don't necessarily trust the select board to not mess with it. And or make it or just outright deny it. And what I would suggest is that we be prepared. I'm not even sure why we can't have both a zoning component, you know, a planning commission solution and a select board solution to this problem that work together or complement each other, or,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
Even a zoning solution still has to get approved by the select board. I mean, we're gonna have to get through that. And I think if we do the work, justify it, do the public education, get people out to the hearing, answer the select board's questions, then it's.
I know, but it's real politic is all I'm talking about. I've seen weird things happening on the select board lately, of the past, I don't know, 10 years maybe. I've seen a lot of real weirdness and things that are inexplicable. People making decisions that you can't ask them, why did you do that, after the fact. They're not going to answer you. And you know, I think to be safe, we should have both. We should at least have something that the planning commission can put in place ready. If
Yeah, I mean, I see you, Jeff. I just want to make the point again. The planning commission cannot put anything in place without the select board, whatever.
But we do a voting process first, then they sort of second it. Whereas when they write the ordinance, we do all the work and then they can throw it out if they want. They haven't really got, it's a different set of it sort of in.
Would be as strong as possible with an ordinance. We would vote on it, we would write it word for word and hand it to them very strongly. Jeff?
Yeah, hey, as someone who believes in the core nonsense that Ernie made reference to, I think it would be good to say, hey, Steve, if we're all in sync with respect to owner-occupied rentals, give us a shot at that, like we did with the farmers market, and then pitch it to the select board, just like we did with the farmers market. And we've already done it. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Owner occupied. That's what I'm hearing. Not BlackRock. You know, rent to anybody.
Yeah, it's simple. We've had public comment to push for it. To flip it the other way, our staff is saying they have an unregulated use in the town that needs definition. And so we're being asked, Brennan's zoning planning director guy is saying, I need help, please do this for me. We've talked about it from a policy point of view, made the distinction about owner occupied. We're going to do all the work to write up the ordinance, and VLCT has made it as legally defensible and solid as possible. I think we just, like Jeff said, we've proven this is possible. Let's see if we can do it again with this specifically. Okay. Good. So let's write up. I think we can come back to the next meeting with a very specific draft. So Stephen, while you were off, we give you homework again. Which is
not going to be at the next meeting, right?
What?
I'm not going to be at the next meeting.
Oh, I did remember that. That was right before I gave you homework.
Yeah.
Well, you can still get it in the packet before.
I'll just turn it in early. Okay, sure.
Exactly. It's homework that has to be done before vacation. So I mean, I think we should take the VLCT model ordinance. We should fill in the blanks and take out the parts that we've been talking about. It's quite simple. So
Yeah.
just a question to the group. Stephen, you had said you didn't think a registry was necessary in Norwich at this time. Is that, what do people think about that?
I don't know how you can manage it.
You know, that's sort of a mechanical question. Somebody,
Oh,
there
gosh.
are models for, people just have to, annually appear, pay a fee, fill out a form. There's models for
Well, so
it.
like a building permit, so if I'm gonna argue in your direction, so if I'm gonna do a owner occupied B&B, Airbnb, whatever, rental, I have to register it with you. I don't have a problem with
Or
that,
the town clerk.
whatever, but you're gonna be the gatekeeper ultimately, because you know the rules. The town clerk doesn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I think in
Yeah, on the
conjunction.
ordinance. I mean, you gotta license your dog, you gotta register your B&B.
Yeah,
I haven't had my rabies shot recently either, by the way.
well, just
Yeah.
talk to Lily.
We can tell, Jeff.
You need your registry. Ernie?
Yeah, I was gonna say St. Johnsbury has a registry like this, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And it helps a lot of things. I mean, I have a case in St. Johnsbury that is depending on this registry.
It's
interesting.
data, it's data. We're not, there was another.
It's data, but it helps you know whether somebody is doing stuff right or wrong
Yeah.
as well. And it's easier to find somebody in the town who's going to sort of back you up when you're trying to deal with a problem that's deal with a violation.
Yeah.
Of something
Yeah.
else, if also there is a registry, whether this town can put that into action, I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing kind of,
Well, I think, so Vince, did you have a point? Because I think the registry is different than a capacity limit. It's one thing to say you gotta go sign up with Steve and make sure you're following the rules. That's not the same as saying we're not allowed to have more than 5% of our houses in this category. We're not going that far yet.
Yes, I don't think, I wasn't thinking about the cap thing. I just thought as having a list to be able to go see it just as a property owner, or even someone as a potential property owner, it would be nice to have someone moving in, wants to buy a house. It'd be nice for them to know that the neighbor has an Airbnb. Just that, yeah, it's good information to have.
but it is a good thing to
I
have.
think so too.
I mean, St. Johnsbury's, it has a bunch of different uses, and you can tell when somebody is, like, for instance, when somebody's not taking care of a place and it's really considered uninhabitable. If you don't have a registry, you can't protect the people that might be forced into moving into a house that they find out after they're in it is a dump.
Yeah.
And now they got some kind of binding, they're bound to it or whatever, all kinds of things like that. Having a registry can help.
Yeah.
Without it being an actual enforcement agency of its own. Like, it's not a police officer, it's not policing the thing, it's just letting people know that this is occasionally looked at.
Well,
Does everybody agree? Does everybody agree? But it's owner occupied, it's registry, it's that set of 6 or 7 bullet items that Stephen sent out at the packet before.
Yeah.
Best practices, health, noise, all that sort of,
Yep.
the obvious ones.
Yeah.
So let's.
Did we make a decision on whether it's owner, if someone is going to be there all the time, or if it's owner, I guess owner. like-
Owner occupied was defined as, and this is good to be sure that we're clear, owner. So there's owner occupied versus operator occupied. That's one distinction. We're, as far as I know, talking owner occupied. So, but by definition, that means it's their primary residence.
Mhm.
Which means, and that's easily confirmed based on sort of taxes, did they do that? But it does mean that someone only lives there, it only needs to live there 183 days a year. So somebody could go away for 5 months, go down to Florida. It's still their primary residence, and they're renting their house not for 5 months, but for, lots of little things for 5 months on Airbnb, that would still qualify, depending on what our registry and rules said about 24/7 available person contact information stuff.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm fine with that. That's a little more lenient, I guess. So I like that direction at this point.
You have a contact person. Worst case, they go to Switzerland for the 5 months, and you're waking them up at 2 a.m. their time because somebody's causing trouble at their rental. If they want to designate somebody to answer the phone who's in the right time zone, that's different. But it is for tax purposes their primary residence. That's what owner means.
yeah. Heard. Yeah,
Okay.
so I can do that. And I'll talk, I can also talk with Lily and figure out which office is the best to maintain the sort of annual registration, re-registration process. I mean, they're gonna require a building permit to operate to begin with. So it's,
Because it's a use change.
well, it's, yeah, I mean, it's
I mean,
the,
if I'm taking an existing bedroom, but it has to have a kitchen, right?
yeah, yes. Actually, no, you don't have to have a kitchen to have a Airbnb or a Vrbo.
You can
rent a
just
room.
do a bedroom.
Yeah.
Then
But
why
that
would you
means-
need a building permit?
Because everything requires a building permit, unless we're not exempting people from having to. And, you know, and that's the point where you know, sort of insist on compliance with the list of requirements. At least that's my thinking.
Are you thinking of new build though?
I think that's a fair way of looking at it is, you know,
It's a change of use.
Change of use, okay. Yeah.
I mean, that
I'll have to
your
see what
definition,
the
your
registries are-
definition of development has change of use. You don't have to touch a 2x4 or bang a nail or do anything to
No,
require a building permit for a change of use.
right, right. And you know, honestly, I haven't done much background on how registries work. So, you know, maybe with the registry, the building permit process is moot. I don't know, but
It's one or the other or both,
one or the other or both, yes.
not neither.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Good. All right. Well, I think that's a very good step forward. It's in keeping with where we were coming from and from the last meeting, and changed the tool a little bit. But I think the overall point is this is our responsibility to think through, write up, and we are going to hand it to the select board as a package, a finished package for the same kind of tweaking and conversation as we do with the zoning ordinance, but not, it's not a suggestion, gee whiz, do you think we should do this? It is, you know, a decision that we'll push.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Last but not least, on capital planning, which has been the stepchild at the end of the meeting here for a while, and maybe by definition, we'll put it at the beginning of the next meeting or two, just so that we can make some progress. But I guess I'd hand it to you, Christian, just for the sake of some people don't have to listen to me talk, and we can start the ball rolling. Not that we necessarily have gone leaps and bounds forward yet.
Yeah, so I guess where I'll start, and I think Bob's feeling the same, is it's a big undertaking, and like where to start, where this group wants to prioritize. I talked to Jan. Jan has sent some lists and ideas. I mean, it's everything from sidewalks to water to wastewater to utilities, town buildings. Like it's kind of like all encompassing. And so like where to begin, what the priorities are for this group and a timeline, or do we go like sequential one after another, or do people want to split up in groups and each tackle a different thing to move it along faster? Some of these I think are going to be quite time consuming depending on how up to date records are at Tracy Hall. I don't know, or how available people are to meet with us and give us what's there. So those are some of the initial thoughts that people have. I mean, you follow select board, or like the Capitol building stuff is forefront of mind for a lot of people at Tracy Hall.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm super invested in, I sent a letter to the select board last week about sidewalks around the Marion Cross area.
Yep.
A lot of people have turned over in this area, and lots of the kids walking on Route 5 and cars are cruising around.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's close to me, but like I'm open to like where people want to kind of take this in the next, like as a starting point.
Ernie?
Well, one question I have is, I mean, I just heard Chris talking about, capital items, basically, which to me means, specifying things that are going to get, money is going to get spent on. But, this town is already going to break a lot of people. It's, and we spend an awful lot on us on one major item, which is the school. And there is things to criticize about that, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. Point is that how do we keep this? We got to find a way to make sure this town stays. At least we don't, so that it doesn't exacerbate the costliness of this town. I mean, there's reasons why in the past sidewalks have not been put down Church Street. For instance, there's a cost to taking people's land. You don't just get to take it. You have to pay them actually for it. So, at the price of a square foot of land in Norwich, in the village of Norwich, you're talking a lot of money, and you're going to use a bunch of square feet of land from one end of Church Street to wherever you're going to stop it. And so on. And that's just, and then you put in you do the construction. And that's just one sort of simplistic thing I'm talking about. Buildings, somebody floated the idea of replacing Tracy Hall. There are young families in this town. How can they afford this stuff? Not all of them are born rich.
Hmm.
Can I just a little bit of feedback? So Ernie, I mean, I'm totally with you. Like I get it, and I feel the pain day in, day out. I mean, my thoughts are two things. One is these things happen whether we plan for them or not. Like the heat at Tracy Hall a year or two ago, like for example, is one. I mean, so like these are going to happen, and so like we're not saying yes or no. We're just like coming up with a list of projects that have been thought through. And then the other big thing to me is like, I've actually seen like the tax rate has gone up, spending has increased year over year, and I don't see a whole lot of like strategic planning that has happened in the 5 years I've been here. So like, I think some of it, like if it was more targeted and thought through, like to what end? Like, and it doesn't have to be this year, it can be next year, it can be the 2035 plan for any of these things. But it's like, we're going to need the deep public works building. We're going to need Tracy Hall upgrades. We're going to need, I don't know, whatever it is.
Right.
And if we don't do it, like, I mean, we've been taxed. I mean, we're sitting on piles of money as a town we're not doing anything with, and they've already taken it.
Yeah. So I think to double down on that, if you could do a capital plan, if you're doing it wrong, it would be a fun wish list of like, hey, let's just go around the town and ask everybody what they want. Oh, I want a beautiful stairway coming down from Hawk Pine, and oh, I want this, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about helping be smart and thoughtful, and fix the roof before the roof leaks and you have to go pay extra to fix the whole building. That kind of planning smarts. I mean, the one example I would put on the table, so sort of two things I'd say to try and bound this, because I agree with Christian. We've already bounded it a little bit by saying we're not talking a capital plan that the finance committee or the whole finance, how many cruisers do we need and what are we doing with the fire trucks? We're talking utility and facilities plan as defined for the planning commission. So that's a shorter list. And then I would take it and say, if we got the planning grant for the village area, we would be in a position to put some thought into sidewalks and whether the boundaries of the water were right, so forth. So there's a piece of capital planning that we could plan to do if we got that grant. And then what that leaves at least is a town buildings piece that helps make the conversation around Tracy Hall more intelligent. And to the cost saving point of view, I would say if you're smart about it, the planning commission has the big picture and the long view to talk to the people at the Grange, to talk to the people who are building the farmers market building, to put the school and the public safety building and the library and all those things in a holistic view, to be able to then go participate in the Tracy Hall conversation and say, well, wait a minute. You don't need a big meeting room, ... because you've got these other resources in town. So anyway, that may be a way of narrowing down this conversation to something that's needed in the short term.
Christian, did you guys have a chance to look at the NORCAP materials? Do you think that could be sort of, I know it was done in 2006, so it's absolutely dated, but a framework we can modernize, bring up to date?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think yes, like it's pretty dated to the point of, I don't know how helpful is it now, like as far as if you wanted to redo it and modernize it, to me, like it was so daunting. Like it's not something I could do feasibly in a role in this, as a volunteer role. I mean, it was a major undertaking and assessment of the town. Like,
yeah, it was an impressive amount of work that went into that, for sure.
But that's comprehensive to all these different areas, right?
correct.
Yeah, and I think it did sort of get down to a level of granularity that I don't think we're expecting to do ourselves. I mean, I think another good starting point would be some kind of like asset inventory. I have mapping data that all of our sort of culverts, stormwater features. Pam Smith provided a listing of the sidewalks. I think that sort of just basic data collection process would be a good place to start. It's a list of public facilities, maybe some of their characteristics. I don't know, but just starting with a list of all those things, is probably the easiest way to start.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, it's what Pam said, that the both document, it starts to feel like it's beyond feasible. I mean, unless a whole bunch of people in this group all want to start dedicating a lot of hours per week, like the timeline of, I mean, it was like down to the rating of the sidewalk per like footage. So like X number of square foot are in 10 out of 10, and this number is 8 out of 10. Like, I mean, that's a lot of data collection that, like, unless there's an interest and appetite to do that sort of stuff. And then some of it is like just totally beyond my skill set. Like I can't go to Tracy Hall and assess the roof from the ground. Like
Mm,
I don't know if someone's doing that or not, but like that's kind of like beyond our purview. Like I assume Public Works or somebody is doing some of this. It's just like tapping into that information.
mm,
But then even then, it's like if we make something, if we recreate the 2006 document, it's so detailed and so much. It's like to what end? Like you get a select board, and then it's like now what? Like here's
Yeah.
900 pages of depreciating assets down to the penny for like from everything from windows at Tracy Hall to the sidewalk. This 10 square feet of sidewalk. Like what do you do with that?
Well, maybe we should reframe this rather than, trying to achieve a capital plan. We should, look at what the contents of the utilities and facilities chapter should be in our town plan. Because that's a prerequisite. We need to, I think that's, it's more aspirational, it's less, granular. And that might be a sufficient starting point, going through what those typical, themes are in that chapter and writing narratives to them.
well, and it is, I mean, if you look at the list, if you look at the definition of that plan, utilities and it's like you said, it's stormwater, it's sidewalks, it's water and sewer, which is water for us. It's town buildings, and then things that we don't have, like power plants and solid waste facilities other than the transfer station. But, there is a list, and to a level of, not going too granular, if here's a list of the town facilities, here's we have this many miles of sidewalk, we have here's the boundary of the water district, that inventory at that level needs to be done to statutorily talk capital planning in the town plan. You must have a utility and facilities plan. So if what we're really saying is we're going to adjust the granularity of that to match the resources we have to work on it. I mean, that's really what we're proposing, is to say, we got a definition, we got that list of 5 or 6 things that are needed to create a utility and facilities plan. We want to do it in 3 months, whatever. And that means that you're going to only be able to do this level of specificity.
And even that level, I mean, any level of specificity is going to require some sort of buy-in or some sort of resources beyond, like, take Tracy Hall, for example. Like, I can write 2 sentences up, describe Tracy Hall, year it was built, blah, blah, blah. You can give it like a scale of 1 to 10 or something, like it's condition, but like that, the nuance between it, heat, water, roof, like those are things that like, I don't know if those are being evaluated or assessed on a regular basis. It's going to get even more complicated if you do that with specific culverts. Like there's 98 culverts on, like, in this section of town, like on a scale of 1 to 10, like these ones are listed as 2s. Like I can't judge a culvert.
Well, and we should do, well, obviously we don't want to be redundant. We don't have enough time to do it. We don't want to redo somebody else's, or we should do what the planning commission, what's appropriate for us to do, what we're the best group to do. So assessing the level of each of our culverts in town is not the planning commission's best thing for us to do. So I think that's another way we bound it. We say that the planning commission is dealing with things that relate to the town plan that are a certain time frame and scale, and not the level of detail of, when do they need spare tires for a fire truck, or how many file cabinets are in Tracy Hall. But I would, and then I guess I'd ask a related question, which is how should the planning commission be involved in the Tracy Hall conversation that's going to go on in the next few months? Because I think that's a related and possibly helpful question. I talked to Brennan just for a minute about this, and he said, essentially, the select board is going to be busy with budgeting things until Christmas. Come January, they've got people on the select board, Chemo, I know, that are pushing to kind of open up the conversation of Tracy Hall a little bit more before. And so, is there a role for the planning commission in that conversation, and what would it be come January, February? Because I think it's related, could be related to this, because I don't know who's talking to the Grange, who's saying uses. I mean, theoretically, the architect is, or something, that they're saying, okay, you have meeting rooms and you have of different sizes and gymnasiums and things like that. What's the town inventory by use? But I don't know. What should the planning commission do relative to that conversation?
I guess I'm curious, I mean, yeah, totally related to that, how best can we define what our purpose is with capital planning? Is it to, even just consolidate many disparate things for the select board to have at hand and ready to, take into the context of whatever money discussions they're having. I mean, I guess I coming from a level of ignorance in this, but at times it does seem like the conversation deals with the bridge on Moore Lane and then forgets about it and moves on to the next, the firefighting approach. And again, that's maybe just looking at things from the listserv and other conversations, less from the select board meetings. But how can we provide a tool that helps, responsible government in the select board, which sounds a little simplistic, but
No,
there are, I don't know if the, Department of Public Works is talking to this, is it all through Brennan? Is it through the select board that the budget and plans and whatnot I mean, we're sort of leaving the fire department, police out of it, but does that go through the
I
select
think,
board? Does it go through
beyond, the reserving of funds, like the culvert fund and things like that. And I could be wrong, I have not seen much in the way of capital planning from the select board. And, to your point of avoiding the firefighting syndrome, this would be very effective by providing some kind of continuity. But, it's in 2006, a tremendous amount of effort was put into this, and I don't know, here we are now. And it's been forgotten.
Christian?
Just another thought is, like, rather than take this granular data approach where it's on us to go around and this group to go around and find all these data points and all the, like, do the cataloging and connect the resources and make sure the other option would be like this group open for public comment, do some fact finding, like meet with some town offices. What do they see on their 5, 10, 15-year horizon? And like come about the list a different way. So rather than like, these are the types of things that, I don't know, Public Works is thinking about. This is what's on the rec radar for 5-year, 10-year, 15, and like come up with a list that way. So it's like you're getting input. It's not us creating the list, but it's a different way to get to do the list as opposed to counting the number of feet of sidewalk that may or may not need repairing.
And how is it a useful list for people to use without making it into something that gets?
Well, I think in
lost on
that way it's more useful because rather than the fire hose,
Precisely, yeah.
yeah, data going out. It's not like a 90-page document. It's like, okay, here is a concise list we've generated over 3 or 4 months with input from these sources of a 3, a 5, a 10-year timeline. And they could
Yeah.
fall under, I don't know, the Grange, the rec department, the whatever the different sections of we put them in.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think still comes down to what's appropriate for the planning commission to do or planning commission staff. I mean, you're basically saying there's X number of hours in the month of this group's time and of Stephen's time, and how best to use that's
Yeah.
appropriate to our mission. And if we said, okay, we're going to use 80% of that time to make a 14-page Excel spreadsheet, I don't think that would be the best use of our time for the next 3 months. So how do we adjust that? I think, to your point, Christian, to flip it into, it's not a wish list per se, but it's a planning thing that points to the future or uses the future as a starting point. What might you need money for in the next 5 years, 10 years, as a way to start a conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the rec department's the place to go for the tennis courts, like they'll know, or the baseball fields or whatever, and I don't know, DPW knows their stuff, and the fire knows, like, it's just a different way to approach it. Like, so whether you call it a wish list or not, but it's like, this is the horizon of things that, like, someone at the fire station will know better what the condition of that roof is than anyone in this group.
Well, and starting with the things that are the categories that are listed on the utility and facilities plan,
Yeah.
shrinks it down. So yes, you're talking town facilities, but there's a whole chunk of stuff you're not talking about, and that's a good starting point too. All right, I think we're about to hit the witching hour. We need to do the minutes, and I think we may have run aground for energy for the evening, or maybe I'm just thinking personally.
I agree with you.
Can we? I mean, I would ask the group the simple question, and even if we thought about this independent of capital planning, I would ask the group to think about how does the planning commission want to be involved in the Tracy Hall conversation in the new year? Because I think we should be, and we should think through what is our unique role in that activity. So let's think about that, and then I think there are a few good thoughts on the table for capital planning that we can continue with. All right, for now, do we have any other? Well, let's do the minutes, or is there any public on Zoom or public comment from the room?
No.
We wear them out. Okay. Minutes for October 14th. I have a motion to start with. Come on, I can get a motion.
Motion to approve minutes.
Okay, Ernie, seconded by Bob. Any comments on the minutes of October 14th? Okay, and maybe what I would suggest, like I said, the thing that I wrote up about the enhanced energy plan that's in this packet, I would call that detailed minutes for item 5. So we could actually just append those if people are all right with that. I don't, it puts them, they're in the packet for this time, so they're in the public record, but I wrote them up trying to simply put detail to the conversation we had on 1014.
So your suggestion is to attach your memo to the minutes?
Just, yeah, amend number 5 to say, see attached detail. And my thing says draft on it. We could leave draft on mine until the following, until we talk about it in December. We're going to approve these minutes. But we could tag we could just note an attachment.
Okay. And that's part of the approved minutes is the attachment. Yeah, I'll figure out how to make that happen. Yeah, I can do that.
They can, Pam can just concatenate to make the PDF.
Yep.
Okay. Just, yeah, I want to make sure. Yeah, I'll send that separately and then we can have her do her thing. Okay, sounds good.
All right, all those in favor of the minutes as drafted and amended? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vince. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Nothing to do but vote.
All in.
All in. All right, thank you, guys.
Are we meeting
Yeah.
regular day next month in 2 weeks? Is that the
Yeah,
2 weeks-ish?
the
Yeah,
second,
December 9th.
December 9th, Steven's not there, but he's got all the homework.
Right. So I'll get that out to you early.
All right,
Right.
thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Good night.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Yeah.